disappointed in Akon's comments about American Africans. I thought Akon was a Pan-Africanist, and to constantly hear him occasionally make derogatory comments about American Africans when you have benefited from our art form. It's still African, but hip-hop was birthed on American soil. For you to have benefited yourself from hip-hop and American African R&B and to speak negatively about us at the same time, I think it's a shame.
What's up, good people? This is Eugene, the African Kid. So we're going to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's take on Akon building a city in Africa. You see, there are speculations that the city might be funded by the Chinese government. What does that mean? That means that it is a neocolonialism to Africa today. And there are a lot of questions that we as Africans, or we people with African descent, ask ourselves. Why do these people do these things to us? Is it that they still take us like we are not developed? I don't want to say much. Let's first hear Dr. Umar Johnson's take on this issue, and let's gather together and talk.
You feel about Akon? Because I know you feel a type of way about the comments he be making about African Americans, and he's also, building a city right now. What you think about that?
First of all, I love my brother Akon. The Locked Up song he did with Styles P, one of my favorite hip-hop R&B songs. I'm disappointed in Akon's comments about American Africans. I thought Akon was a Pan-Africanist, and to constantly hear him occasionally make derogatory comments about American Africans when you have benefited from our art form. It's still African, but hip-hop was birthed on American soil. For you to have benefited yourself from hip-hop and American African R&B and to speak negatively about us at the same time, I think it's a shame. And at a time where African people around the world need to be coming together as one. Akon is my brother. Yes, he's Senegalese, but he's my brother. My ancestors might have came out of Gorée Island, Senegal. He's my brother. So for me, it's a disservice whenever I see Africans, American Africans, continental Africans, Caribbean Africans, Canadian Africans, Brazilian Africans, Africans in Europe speak negatively about other Africans. We are one people. United we stand, divided we fall. Now, Akon City. I believe Akon means well. I do. But if the reports are true, that the Chinese are financing Akon City to a tune of $1 billion, then that's not Akon City. That's Senegalese Chinatown is what it is. That is Senegalese Chinatown, because the hand that pays is the hand that rules. The hand that pays is the hand that rules. So if the Chinese are financing Akon's city, then that is not Akon City. It is nothing more than a neo-colonialist front for the Chinese to make inroads into Western Africa and through Senegal in particular as a means of recolonizing the entire continent. If that is Chinese money, I cannot support the project. That's what I'm hoping it's not true. I'm hoping it's not true. But from what I'm hearing, the Chinese are fronting the $1 billion for Akon. The Chinese are the new colonialists on the block. They are engaged in a three-way tug of war, Chinese, Russians, and Americans, for who are going to dominate the soil of Africa. Remember, whoever controls Africa rules the world, because Africa has the largest deposits of non-renewable resources in the world. Gas, oil, gold, silver, manganese, coltan. Do you realize of the dozen or so minerals necessary to create an atomic bomb, half of them are in Africa? There is no nuclear age without Africa. There is no solar age without Africa. There is no technological age without Africa. China knows that. And see, the reason China wants to possess herself of Africa It's number one, China is overpopulated. I've been there twice to speak to the Africans. China is overpopulated, bro. You think rush hour in New York is something? You think rush hour in DC? Go to China and sit in that rush hour. It's overpopulated. 2 billion people. They need somewhere to drop off the excess Chinese. Africa has undeveloped land all over the continent. It's the perfect place for China to send all of the people she needs to get rid of. Number two, China is the number one producer of cheap goods, cheap food, cheap clothes, cheap utensils, cheap devices, cheap soap, anything cheap, China makes it. They are the Walmart of the planet. China has a surplus of cheap goods. Where can I go and sell all these cheap goods that cost less than $1 so I can recoup all my money from the surplus I have? Africa.
While Dr. Mark Johnson says those words about, what Akon is trying to do and its effect to the Africans, what it will cost. Because remember, he has highlighted the issue of selling cheap things. And it's true, we have a lot of things in our country which are being sold by the Chinese people. It's not bad to invest in Africa. Of course, it is good to invest in Africa. And Africa is partnering with different teams to invest in Africa. But what is detrimental to African people? That's one thing we also need to ask ourselves. We need to think about it as Africans and ask ourselves this question. Why is it that it is in Africa when they want to test vaccine, it only happens in Africa? They start with Africa. Why is it that every test that they feel that can fail, it's only done in Africa? They start in Africa. Let me tell you something. 1 month ago, a leader, a big person from the United States, came to Kenya and they wanted to introduce this, vaccine. And people are asking questions. Why? Why is it that this vaccine is not tested in the United States? Why is it that this vaccine wants to be tested in Africa? So there are a lot of questions. Why is it that they feel like it's unsafe? So let's go to Africa where people are uncivilized. Africa people are not uncivilized. That's why we are asking those questions. Those are the problems of neocolonialism, which Dr. Mark Johnson is talking about. And I'm also here asking these questions, asking the same questions. Why is it that it's Africa where they dispose anything that they feel like it's harmful to human being? Are we not human beings? Are we animals? I mean, this is the 21st century. Everyone has the information, what's right and what's wrong. Also, there are things like, WorldCoin. So recently they came up with something called WorldCoin, where people, you're being scanned your eyes and you receive some coins after some times. Well, there might be there were speculations that there's nothing wrong with that. Also, there are speculations that they are taking people special identification because they are, your eye contains that unique kind of identity that it's you. There's no other person with the same identity like you, same as this thumb. When you take my fingerprint, the only person who is having that fingerprint, and it can be used to access different informations. So why are they doing this to Africans? And the reason as to why Umar Johnson is seeing this as a betrayal is because when they come to Africa, it is a neocolonialism to them because they start disposing these things to Africans. Anything that comes new, they want to test with Africans. Why is it that in Africa, where people till today come and take people that they feel like they can provide a cheap labor, our people are being taken to Qatar, they are working, some people don't come back alive. Why is it that it is in Africa that they still do this to us? It's so unfortunate that it is in Africa where they sign things at the embassy and they say that things are well, and when they go there to work, they are mistreated. Why do they choose Africa? Is it that they feel like Africa is weak? I don't know. Also, when it comes to debt traps, they still use Africa. Kenya itself is having billions and billions of debts that my grandchildren, the sons of my grandchildren and daughters of my grandchildren will pay. The money which will be paid by generations to come. How do they pay this? They pay this by exploiting our resources. You understand that? And today in Congo, you know what's happening there? There are conflicts, political instability, and they use this to their advantage to take the goals which is there. I mean, this is something that we are all clearly seeing as Africans. So that's why Umar Johnson wants all Africans to unite and have that unity, the Pan-Africanism, the Ubuntu spirit. Let's come together as Africans and say no to this, because that's what Dr. Umar Johnson is trying to, spread to Africans, the unity that Africans should be having, and that's what he's trying to spread. Because he also sees the problems that Africans have, and the problem which keeps on increasing by people seeing Africa as a ball which is just being beaten by everyone. When the ball comes to the leg of Chinese, they kick it to the Russians, they kick it to the United States. It's like a game which they're playing with Africans, and it's not right. Africa is the motherland of natural resources. Everything comes from Africa. Then we are the same people. We are the same continent where we are being kicked as football. Our resources are being extracted. We don't talk about it. They have our leaders at their fingertips. Some of our leaders at their fingertips. They use them as puppets, introducing laws which goes against the African customs, goes against the African beliefs. Why is this happening to Africans? This will answer you. This is why Dr. Umar Johnson called all African leaders to stand together, call upon all Africans. Let's be one people. Let's not fight against each other. Let's not join the enemy. You and I watching this video, you know the enemy. You know who is the enemy. So, thank you guys for watching this video until this point. And if you have something to tell me in the comment section, the comment section is open. Tell me what you think about this video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.